Hello friends, today I will inform you about the military drama directed by Bruce Brisford, based on real events titled Road to Paradise. Raffles Hotel, Singapore, February 10, 1942. In the large hall of the restaurant, well-dressed people are sitting. Delicious food and wine on the tables. On stage is a sweet-voiced singer. It doesn't look like the most terrible war in the history of mankind is going on anywhere. World War II. A young officer extends an invitation to a smiling girl to dance. They engage in jokes and laughter. The second couple looks at each other with loving eyes and compliments each other. At the table, several older couples listen to the elderly man's discourse on politics and laugh at the cross-eyed Japanese soldiers who have poor weapons. They can only do toys and non-working cameras. One of the women is indignant. And what about Pearl Harbor? But her husband condescendingly explains. The attack, though, was sudden. At that moment, a shell whistle is heard, and there is an explosion behind the hotel. The music falls silent. People look at each other with anxiety. What was that? But everything subsides, and the conversations resume. Several soldiers enter the door. The senior announces that the Japanese have broken through the front line. Their cannons are firing at the city, and it falls within a few days. Therefore, European women and children must leave. During the night, amidst gunfire, women board a ship intended to transport them to Europe. The group includes Sisters of Mercy, nuns, children, and elderly ladies. Sailors distribute life jackets. In the cabins, there are women's conversations. Someone is outraged that they were taken away at the last minute. Someone worries about the men left. Everyone has different attitudes, but they reach a common opinion on what is happening. You need to be patient. It's only for 5 weeks. During the day, everyone goes out on deck and finds activities for themselves. Playing cards, reading. Mrs. Drummond tells the children myths of ancient Greece. And suddenly Japanese planes appear in the sky. The soldiers rush to the anti-aircraft guns, while the rest lie down on the deck. But there is no salvation from bullets and bombs falling from above. One hits the cabin, and the ship catches fire. The command should be followed. Everyone should leave the ship. 3 women find themselves alone in the middle of the ocean. The outlines of Sumatra are visible ahead. The water is quite warm, and that's good. Night is coming, and they are all swimming to the distant shore. Here he is, finally. Drowning in mud, they struggle to make their way through the mango thickets and go deeper into the island. In front of you is a green meadow where you can relax, and it is only in this place that they finally meet. Rasmaril Uton-Jones, wife of a volunteer. Susan McCarthy, nurse of the Australian Corps. Adriana Pargeter, wife of a tea planter. Under the scorching rays of the sun, they walk along a country road. They are being chased by soldiers on bicycles, but it's as if they don't notice women. However, here a car stops in front of them. A young, smiling soldier invites them inside and asks a question. Are they English women? He was a correspondent in Singapore for several years. What are they doing here? Learning about the sunken ship, he just shrugs. What to say? Omen of war. Adriana reminds of the Geneva Convention, but Japan did not sign this document. There is a war. Laws have no force. The goal is one. Victory. The military disembarks women in the middle of the city and wishes them luck, but the appearing soldiers instantly kill any hope of a good outcome. They grab them and drive them to the square. Men are rudely pushed aside. Exhausted women are brought to barracks fenced with barbed wire. Now this is their detention. In the morning they wake to shouts and the sound of sticks on walls. Before the formation, a table is set up, and Colonel Hirota begins a speech about the days of exploitation of the Eastern peoples by the English and the Dutch being in the past. Now the situation will be reversed. One of the women raises her hand and tries to ask a question, but she is beaten by the sergeant. Friends who rush to help also get tired. Soldiers beat women right and left, forcing them to bow down. Prisoners are brought food waste and cleaning, and they carry everything to the kitchen to prepare something edible out of it. Despite the gravity of what happened, women find the strength to joke and smile. They hope that it will end very soon, because their husbands will win soon. Truth, those who won't reconcile. Irish woman from neutral country, doctor is German, an ally of Japan. But the woman immediately snaps. She is Jewish. Asian woman loses hope. Japanese people mistreat women. They despise Europeans the most. First the prisoners, then the women. Adriana sums up. Everything relates to them. The next day, women are sent to work in the rice fields. After, they fetch water for guards at bathhouse, making enjoyable detours and tormenting selves in buckets. Tormentor sergeant drinks coffee from one of these buckets. what brings immense pleasure to women. Prisoners are required to perform the most filthy tasks, cleaning up impurities and transporting them to vegetable beds. In such moments, despair attacks. What if the Japanese win? But women immediately chase away these thoughts. The English do not lose. Dr. Verstock asks for the necessary medications, but receives a refusal. But as an ally, they treat her with cigarettes. The woman calms down. Only 4 died. It's not that bad. Christmas will be worse. This causes outrage. By that time the war will be over. But Christmas is coming and the war goes on. The oldest of them, Mrs. Roberts, gets sick. Need a hen in urgently. Vin is asked to get the medicine. At night, a woman crawls through barbed wire. At the most inconvenient moment, the alarm clock she brought in exchange for medicine starts ringing. Light flashes on tower. Woman starts running. She manages to return to barracks. In morning, women lined up in square. Vin warns, one of arrivals. Captain Tanako from Japanese secret police. This is highly regrettable. Women recognize the young man who drove them on the first day on the island. They disable Vin and throw him in front of him and pour him with fuel, and then the officer throws a match at her. Later they bury a friend in a makeshift box. Miss Drummond reads her poems, full of hope to find the way to paradise. In the evening, Adrian hums Elgar's melody in the barracks, and Miss Drummond recognizes this music. They find out that both of them studied music and sing their favorite melodies. Miss Drummond is autumnal, required to establish an orchestra. In the AM she communicates this concept. Prisoners find it amusing. She believes the Japanese will supply tools. However, Adriana is improving. Their voices will serve as the tools. Miss Drummond records the musical parts that she remembers perfectly. Adriana will be a conductor. She is also selecting singers. Miss Roberts expresses dissatisfaction. It's not necessary to invite Eastern girls to the choir. Her daughter reminds and opens the mother's eyes. She tragically died while saving her specifically. The woman is shocked. The first rehearsals begin in the morning, but the security guards disperse the women. Meetings are prohibited. A little later, the women agree to gather in smaller groups. They don't attract such attention. And who knows, maybe Adriana will become the first female conductor. Once the sergeant bursts into the barracks and hands Miss Drummond a list of the youngest and most attractive women. What is this? Repatriation? Execution? In the morning they're taken to the city. In a big house, they're greeted by a richly set table. This is a club of the most educated and well-mannered Japanese officers. They need volunteer workers at the club. They will have food and silk sheets. Ladies who are ready to stay in a beautiful house should step aside. Several women are stepping away. They don't want to die in the camp. Adriana stops one girl. How can she? And her husband? And their chapel? She is crying. Stay in the camp to starve and sing and remain ragged. Rehearsals are still ongoing. Susan witnesses the doctor of needles extracting gold crowns from the deceased. She's shocked. So that's where the doc gets his whiskey and cigs. But she calmly confirms. Yes, and medicine for all. The Japanese don't give for free. At night, Adriana goes to the toilet and a soldier attacks her. The woman pushes him. He falls into the filth. The security guard comes running, locks the woman in a cage until morning. In the morning, a secret police officer comes to her. He remembers her. Japanese soldiers do not attack women. She did not bow. The soldier hit her, and she dared to hit him, but Adriana denies it. He was drunk and grabbed her. Not having listened, the officer hits the woman. Her friends bring her to the camp director. He is sorry, but the lady has bad manners, and this is very important for the Japanese. Susan is puzzled. They starve and beat women. They steal Red Cross packages. They do not provide medicine for the sick. They are treated like slaves. They are not allowed to write to their relatives. Do they dare to give lectures on good manners? The colonel reports that Adrian will be executed tomorrow because the investigation was conducted by Captain Tanako. And then Miss Drummond asks, Captain Tanako is the owner of the camp? She thought the boss was a jerk here. Adrian is being returned to the barracks. On Saturday, it will be 2 years since they have been in this camp. Women tidy themselves up, dress up as best they can, and go out to the square. Security guards rush towards the intruders. Adriana gives a signal, and the sounds of Dvorak's music are heard over the camp. Soldiers take a seat and listen in shock. Voices soar over the barracks, and even the chief emerges onto the porch area to join the conversation. The next day after work, the sergeant sends everyone to the camp, and Adrian is taken into the forest. A woman is waiting for a bullet in the back or something worse. He sits her on a log, sits down himself, and starts singing while she anxiously awaits her fate. After finishing, he asks, "Is it nice?" The woman nods. In the morning, when hoisting the flag, Susan jokes, and Captain Tanaka notices. He gives orders to disable the girl and inflict punishment upon her. She is placed on her knees, surrounded by sharp stakes. Any motion endangers agony or demise. Throughout the day and night, females observe her afflictions. The doctor asks the translator to tell Captain Tanaka that all wars end, and his behavior with this woman will not adorn him in the eyes of the victors. And will it be Japan? In the morning, Tanaka goes out to the exhausted woman with a sword in her hand. He lifts his weapon, and a strand of her hair descends to the ground. The torturer showed mercy to the victim. At night, Ravel's music is heard in the camp. The camp director and the translator are in the first places. After graduation, the boss gives women soap and asks them to sing a Japanese song. Adriana refuses to do this. She is not enthusiastic about Japanese art. The translator cites another reason. After a while, women are driven into cars. The translator secretly reports that Japan is losing the war. The prisoner is brought to the station, placed in cattle cars, and taken to a new camp. They are settled in half-ruined, in the hands, which they tried to put in order as best they can, but many get sick and die. Miss Roberts, Rosemary, Miss Drummond, they all found their way to paradise. Morning comes when the boss goes out to the women and announces the end of the war. They can once again be friends. Women understand. Japan has lost. The gates of the camp swing open wide for everyone to enter. The remaining survivors rejoice. They stood their ground. Allied forces arrived at this concentration camp in 2 weeks. During the years 1943 and 1944, the choir gave performances of over 30 musical compositions. She closed when half of the participants died and the rest became too weak to sing. Surviving prisoners were friends for life and when they met, sang their favorite works. Friends, thank you for watching. Write in the comments what you think about this movie. And please don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe.